in many cases, when I'm auditing enterprises out there that are using cloud computing, in other words, what would be their optimized architecture, their optimized solution versus where they are now, they're spending 3 to 4 times as much money in operating the systems. And obviously that's money that flows out of the organization and which could be used for other purposes. Could be used for hiring more people, acquiring companies, buying different technologies, doing AI pilot projects, things like that. But it's not. It just goes away. So outcomes are bad enough that many of these leaders should have been fired. Yet most were rewarded or promoted because nobody wanted to admit the cloud strategy had failed. And I think that's really where it comes right down to. In other words, in order to hold somebody accountable, you have to hold the whole organization accountable. Obviously, it's a reflection of the CEO and the CIO and board of directors and everybody else who hired this person who made many of these bad decisions. By the way, it may not be a person, could be a consulting organization, could be a group of people that came into the organization and, made mistakes. So if they get rid of them and that becomes known, obviously it reflects poorly on them. And so that's why, in many of these cases, they fell upward. In other words, they fail, huge failure. And even if you're a consulting firm, you can kind of have the same protection, but they're not going to admit that they failed. And so therefore, they push you forward. And obviously, if you're staying at a company or you're employed at a company for a long period of time, you're eventually going to expect promotions or else people are going to start asking questions. And that's how in many cases, these hugely poor decisions, which I watched firsthand, that were made by some of these large organizations, the people who made the decisions, against better advice, namely me, still there. And now they're moving into setting up their AI strategy for failure.